welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. So I guess that's an article from Ray. Thanks, Ray. It was actually an article about caffeine, but indirectly, while talking about caffeine and whether or not it's harmless or harmful, they talked about genetics. The doctors and scientists, geneticists actually talked about genetics and the role that genetics play in whether or not coffee could be harmful to you or whether or not it could be just harmless, like just like fucking drinking water. They're saying 3 to 5 cups a day is not harmful. I mean, to me that sounds like overkill, but I'm not a big coffee drinker. I'll have a little bit here and there, but I could probably handle maybe 3 cups a day, like spread out throughout the day, but there's no fucking way I'd handle 5. And, one of the reasons for that is I metabolize caffeine very quickly. I had a genetic DNA test done that shows that I metabolize caffeine and alcohol both extremely fast, which means that after I ingest these things, they hit my bloodstream very quickly. So which means I get drunk very fast and I feel the effects of caffeine very quickly. But then again, it wears off kind of fast, which means that I'll be drunk as shit after drinking like 2 beers. I could drink 2 beers in like half hour, be drunk, and then 20 minutes later be sober. Which same thing with caffeine. I'll drink the caffeine, all of a sudden it'll hit me like a fucking truck. And I'll be sweating and like, oh my God, and like an hour later, I'm fine. So they're saying basically, these scientists are saying, at least for some of the scientists, they said that it could be harmful, it could not be. They're still up in the air what it is. But it says their emerging findings from genetics suggest a very different intake on America's favorite drink. While coffee might possibly be beneficial for some, it may very well be harmful for others. It says that basically, how useful are our dietary rules that apply to everyone when genetic differences mean that foods affect us differently? Now, that is exactly what I've been saying all along. And people tell me I'm fucking nuts. A carb is a carb, and this is that, and fucking doesn't matter. And pixie sticks is a good form of fucking energy, or carbohydrates for energy. That's not true. Everybody's different. So for some people, you guys can hear Brady back there with his toy. What you got over there, buddy? Get your Blue Monster? Come here. Come here, buddy. It's the Blue Monster. This is his Blue Monster. It squeaks. There you go, bud. Attaboy. Go kill it. It says basically that there's a single nucleotide out of roughly 3 billion that determines whether a person processes caffeine quickly or slowly, which that must be what I tested for. He said more coffee has been linked in separate studies to a higher risk of hypertension and heart attacks. Unfortunately, because the genetic testing is expensive and rarely done, most people have little idea of what gene variant they carry. Now that's for caffeine, but they're actually saying dietary rules cannot apply to everyone. There's no rule because there is a difference in your genetics, which means that when I get that genetic test back, I've had people tell me, oh, Jerry, you should eat fucking bacon. You should do blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about the olive oil. You have no fucking clue. You're so fucking stupid. I'm like, I got a genetic fucking test done, okay? Which came back and basically told me my body does not digest or handle saturated fats very well. Which means that if I made my diet consist entirely of saturated fats and pulled out olive oils and stuff like that, my body's not going to use it efficiently. Not only that, but when you don't use something efficiently, problems occur. Which means digestive problems if you're not digesting it properly. And if you're not digesting this stuff properly and your digestion is fucked up, you could store fat. You can cause inflammation, higher cortisol levels. All these things could happen. Higher cortisol levels and inflammation, store fat. You could actually get fatter from eating the wrong foods due to hormonal manipulation from the foods, which is what I fucking talk about for the last 3 years. People told me I'm fucking nuts. And it's like, well, now geneticists are saying like, well, we're just studying it with caffeine, but they're saying, other things that they've talked about that basically I'm fucking right. I'm right. Not the motherfuckers out there talking about how it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the average fucking person because the average person out there is fucking fat. They're unhealthy to begin with. It doesn't fucking matter. Their bodies are not running optimal. Their bodies are not running efficiently. Nothing about them is optimal and efficient whatsoever. So does it matter if they jam all their fucking calories in one meal or if they have bacon as a fucking fat source? It doesn't really fucking matter because they're not doing anything right to begin with. But the bottom line is when you have someone like me who does literally try to do everything to make my body healthier. In the past, I wasn't the healthiest guy. I'm gonna, let's fucking face facts. But to be healthier, more efficient, as little stress on my body as possible through foods, through activity, through all these different types of things. Yes, they make a fucking difference. Now, do you have to care about that because I care about it? No, you don't have to give a flying fucking shit. But there are a lot of people out there watching these videos that want information. Right, buddy? They want information. I know. They want information and they don't want the same bullshit that's being slung at them because they're trying this whole like, well, I did what this person said to do and they said it doesn't matter. And you know what? It's not working for me. Why isn't it working for me? Because your fucking genetics are different. I don't know how else to fucking break it down. I've said so many times. And, Ray sent me this article because he was like, it basically talks about what you said. You know, except they're just doing the caffeine thing right now. Like, there are people like I remember this one guy that I used to work with would have a tall Americano, I think it was called. Are you biting my hand? Come here. You want to say hi? Is that the problem? You want to talk about the tall Americano? You know what a tall Americano is? You have no idea what Americano is, do you? It's like coffee. If we gave you any more coffee, if we gave you any coffee at all, you're already fucking spastic. You would probably just fucking spontaneously combust. Do you want to combust? No combustion. No combustion whatsoever. Mwah, go play, buddy. Go get your toys. Go ahead. He would get a tall, like I think it was called a Grande Americano. That's what it was called. With 6 shots of espresso in it. And he would drink it like within 2 hours. And he wouldn't be fucking affected by it at all. Now, what the fuck do you think is going to happen to me? Someone who's pretty sensitive to stims, and like that carries over into stuff like Yohimbe, any kind of other stimulant besides caffeine, I'm sensitive to. Why am I sensitive to it? I have that fucking gene. I have the gene that turns on that sensitivity. So even if I had built up a tolerance over time by drinking coffee, I couldn't have 6 shots of espresso like this guy had. It's just not going to happen. I would fucking die. I'd wind up in the hospital in like fucking an hour. So do I just say, hey, I'm just going to listen to what everybody says? Or do I look at it from a fucking logical standpoint and understand? I mean, there's not one of you motherfuckers out there right now that can't possibly think that we're all the same. That all of our fucking bodies are the same. That we can all fucking train the same way, eat the same way, fucking sleep the same way, all that shit. Why do you, I mean, everything is different about each individual. Why is it such a far concept to grasp that certain foods are not going to work for certain other people and certain foods are going to cause a hormonal response that may aid or fucking stop muscle building, fat loss? Why? It's just, in 2015, it fucking boggles my mind that the more science, the more information we have, the less fucking results we get. It doesn't make any sense because you're not really listening to the basics of it. You're listening to this bullshit that's like a fucking general thing because they just need to start with general shit. But you start with something general and eventually you isolate until you whittle it down to something that's fucking individual, which is what I'm trying to explain to everybody. You need the individual components. Fuck the general. Everybody knows the general already. You want to get to that next level, you want to fucking make things better, more efficient, etc., faster results. Individual. You find those individual things that work for you based on your genetics. And the genetic tests are a good place to start. I tell you, it took me 20 fucking years. Literally, as of today, it's been 25 years. 24, 25 years I've actually been training. It took me 20 of those years to figure out that I can eat high amounts of saturated fat. Sugars are fine. Metabolism, sugar's fine. Alcohol is something that I don't digest well. It doesn't assimilate it well. Caffeine, I don't assimilate well. I just assimilate it quickly. But I found out all this shit on my own through trial and error over years. Then I took the fucking test, and all of a sudden it sent back everything I already knew. I could have fucking taken, if they had that test 20 years ago, I could have seen myself 20 years. So the bottom line is you have these things available to you now. If you can afford it, get the test done because it's going to tell you things that you're going to have to experiment and find out anyways. You're spinning your fucking wheels. There's a reason why you're spinning your wheels. Stop listening to those assholes out there who generalize fucking everything and tell you nothing matters. If nothing matters, trust me, they would fucking be doing what they're telling you to. There's a guy on YouTube who's all the fucking time says, it doesn't matter and I have all my fucking clients do this and da-da-da. But I choose to do it with wholesome, clean foods and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you look the way you do because you're eating like a fucking bro. And you're telling people it doesn't fucking matter. What the fuck sense does that make? What you're doing is what making you look like what you look like. But you're telling them to do something else. And they're not looking like you. Not even doing it remotely look like, they don't even remotely look like you. So you're giving them information based on, you don't want to really either put it out or you're like, it's too hard for people or you just want to get fucking people to follow you. I don't know what the fucking case is, but the bottom line is, if you're doing one thing and telling someone else to do another thing, not based on the fact that you know their body, but based on the fact that you're like, oh, all things don't matter, then why aren't you eating the fucking Pop-Tarts? Why aren't you eating the Oreos? Why aren't you eating the fucking bacon? Why aren't you eating all that shit? Because you know your body does this. Okay, what about someone else? Did you ever stop and think about that? I mean, I guess we'll get into a little of a rant here, but, geneticists, they understand. I mean, if I was having this conversation with somebody who's a fucking genetics expert, they'd be like, yes, Jerry, you're right. But instead, I have these conversations with dumb motherfuckers on the internet and fucking retards that fucking go in forums. And they go, Jerry, you don't fucking understand. I'm like, that's the problem, is I understand a lot more than you do. I'm not being cocky, I'm not being a dick, I'm being fucking truthful. I'm trying to teach you for free. You're not paying anything for this information. You'd rather fight it because you want the Oreos, you want the Pop-Tarts, you want the bacon. I get it. Everybody wants that shit. But the bottom line is facts are facts and fucking bullshit's bullshits. And you can fucking try to weigh it out as best you can, but everybody always talks about the science and the fucking science. These are geneticists. They're fucking scientists, and that's what they're fucking saying. Okay, it's not a supplement company. It's not a food company. It's not these other companies trying to push their products, doing studies to fucking get shit done and put it on the market, telling you that stuff is good. These are geneticists that don't give a fuck about any of this shit, that are doing studies to try to figure out how these genes work. And listen to these motherfuckers. Biostreettraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostreettraining.com is a blog. It's the geneticists. Listen to them. Ooh, it's ripping through the shirt, and we're out.